I never thought betrayal would have a distinct smell. But there it was, the scent of another man's cologne lingering on my wife's neck as she announced her pregnancy. 7 years of marriage shattered in an instant when Jessica revealed the father was not me, but my own brother-in-law, Tyler. The real gut punch came next. She expected me to raise this child as my own, because her body, her choice. Little did she know I was about to make some choices of my own. Before I continue this story, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to rebuild your life after betrayal. My name is Dale, a 34-year-old software engineer who had always played by the rules. I worked 60-hour weeks developing applications for a financial technology company, slowly climbing the corporate ladder while building what I thought was a stable foundation for my future family. The long hours were worth it because I had a clear vision of where I wanted to be in life. I met Jessica 8 years ago at my college roommate's wedding. She was the maid of honor, a vibrant woman with an infectious laugh that could light up any room. We locked eyes across the dance floor, and by the end of the night, we were inseparable. Our connection was immediate and intense. 3 months of dating turned into a proposal, and within a year we were married in a small ceremony surrounded by friends and family. The first few years of our marriage were blissful. We purchased a cozy 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburban neighborhood with excellent schools nearby. Jessica worked as an elementary school teacher, and we spent our weekends renovating our home, planning for the future we would build together. My brother Mark and his wife Amanda lived just 20 minutes away. The 4 of us became incredibly close, spending holidays together, having weekly dinner nights, and even taking joint vacations. Jessica and Amanda developed a particularly strong bond, often referring to themselves as sisters rather than sisters-in-law. Tyler, Amanda's brother, occasionally joined our gatherings whenever he was in town. The trouble began 3 years ago when we started trying for a baby. Month after month passed with no success, leading to a series of doctor visits that confirmed I had low sperm motility. Jessica took the news hard. Her dream of motherhood suddenly in jeopardy. We tried multiple rounds of IVF, draining our savings and maxing out credit cards in the process. Each failure hit Jessica harder than the last, while I buried myself in work to afford the next treatment. The financial strain was immense. I picked up additional projects and worked overtime, often coming home long after Jessica had gone to bed. She grew distant, spending more time with Amanda, and by extension Tyler, who had recently moved to our city after a divorce. I noticed small changes in her behavior, but attributed them to the emotional toll of our fertility struggles. There were warning signs I chose to ignore. The secretive phone calls that ended abruptly when I entered the room. The new clothes and makeup when she was just going to see Amanda. The late nights out that became increasingly frequent. I dismissed my suspicions as paranoia, born from exhaustion and stress. Then came the dinner that changed everything. Jessica prepared my favorite meal, complete with candles and wine. My heart soared when she announced she was pregnant, thinking our struggles were finally over. My joy quickly turned to confusion when I asked about the timing of our last fertility treatment. The argument that followed ended with her tearful confession that the baby was not mine but Tyler's, my brother-in-law, Amanda's brother. Jessica justified her actions with a phrase that would haunt me for months. My body, my choice, Dale. I wanted a baby, and you couldn't give me one. She delivered this statement with such cold finality that I barely recognized the woman sitting across from me. I stood frozen in our kitchen, trying to comprehend how 7 years of marriage had led to this moment of complete betrayal. The following weeks were a blur of sleepless nights and silent days. I moved into our guest room, unable to look at Jessica without feeling physically ill. She continued her daily routine as if nothing had changed, occasionally attempting to discuss baby names or nursery colors, as though I should be an enthusiastic participant in preparing for her affair child. Jessica's family descended like vultures, led by her overbearing mother, who cornered me in our kitchen one Sunday afternoon. "You need to step up and be a man about this, Dale," she hissed. "Marriage is about forgiveness, and family comes first." Her father nodded stoically behind her, adding that real men raise children, regardless of biology. Their selective morality was staggering. Tyler had conveniently disappeared from our social circle. According to Amanda, he had accepted a sudden job opportunity across the country. His absence only added to my isolation, as if everyone expected me to silently accept this situation, while he escaped all consequences. My suspicions about the depth of their betrayal were confirmed when I found Jessica's unlocked phone one evening. The text messages between her and Tyler dated back over a year, filled with intimate details and future plans. Some messages were sent from our bed while I worked late to pay for fertility treatments. The irony was excruciating. Jessica noticed my discovery and launched into a tirade about how my emotional distance and work schedule had pushed her into Tyler's arms. "You were never here, Dale. What did you expect? Tyler actually listened to me, made me feel wanted when you were always at the office." Her ability to twist reality was remarkable, considering those extra hours were specifically to fund the fertility treatments she had begged for. My anger grew daily, festering into a resentment I had never experienced before. Our house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a prison where I was expected to finance and emotionally support another man's child born from my wife's infidelity. At 12 weeks pregnant, Jessica made a unilateral announcement she was keeping the baby and expected my full support both financially and emotionally. "This child deserves a stable home with 2 parents," she declared one morning over breakfast, as if reading from a script. "We can get past this if you just accept reality." The situation escalated when Amanda organized a family intervention in our living room. Jessica sat surrounded by her support system, eyes brimming with practiced tears, as Amanda pleaded with me to find forgiveness and think about the innocent child. Not once did anyone acknowledge Jessica's betrayal or Tyler's abandonment of his responsibilities. Instead, I was painted as the villain for my lack of compassion. My work performance suffered severely. Projects were delivered late, bugs slipped through my code, and my manager delivered a formal warning after I missed an important client meeting. The career I had built so carefully was now at risk, along with my marriage and home. Desperate for guidance, I secretly consulted a divorce attorney during my lunch break. The consultation painted a sobering picture in our state. I could be held financially responsible for a child born during our marriage, regardless of biological paternity, unless I took specific legal actions within a limited time frame. While I processed this information, Jessica began transforming our home office into a nursery without discussion. Pale yellow paint covered the walls that once held my diplomas and professional certificates. A crib appeared where my desk had stood. Each change felt like another violation of my already fractured life. The financial betrayal cut even deeper when I discovered Jessica had emptied our joint savings account of $32,000 for baby essentials. The funds we had painfully accumulated for our future, including contributions from my annual bonuses, vanished into luxury baby items and maternity clothes. The breaking point came when Jessica invited her entire family and several friends for a baby shower at our house. She handed me a list of expensive items she expected me to purchase as gifts for the party. When I objected to celebrating the physical evidence of her affair under my roof, Jessica unleashed a torrent of accusations about my immaturity and lack of empathy. That evening, as guests filtered into our home bearing gifts and congratulations, Jessica delivered her ultimatum. Either I accept the baby as my own and create a normal family, or she would file for divorce and take half of everything we owned, including the house I had largely paid for. Her smile never reached her eyes as she added, "Your choice, Dale." I sat in my car the following morning, keys in the ignition but going nowhere. Rain pelted the windshield as I stared at our house, the home we had chosen together now transformed into a monument to betrayal. Something shifted inside me in that moment, a clarity emerging from the fog of shock and grief. I realized I had been so focused on what I was losing that I had forgotten what I deserved: respect, honesty, and the right to determine my own future. That afternoon, I scheduled another appointment with the divorce attorney, this time with clear intention rather than desperate confusion. She outlined my rights and responsibilities, the timeline for filing, and strategies to protect my remaining assets. I took detailed notes and asked pointed questions my software engineer's brain, finally engaging with the problem systematically rather than emotionally. The following day, I met with a financial advisor who specialized in divorce cases. He helped me understand how to document the emptied accounts, track expenses, and create a financial buffer for the coming months. For the first time since Jessica's announcement, I felt a sense of control returning to my life. Over the next week, I developed a comprehensive plan. Each evening after Jessica fell asleep, I meticulously documented evidence of the affair, made copies of important financial records, and researched my legal options. My analytical skills, honed through years of solving complex coding problems, now served a more personal purpose. I requested 2 weeks of personal leave from work, citing family emergency. My manager, aware of my recent performance issues, approved it without question. This gave me uninterrupted time to implement my strategy, while Jessica assumed I was at the office. First, I secured new bank accounts at a different institution, transferring my recent paychecks and a small emergency fund I had maintained separately. Next, I gathered essential documents, birth certificate, passport, investment records, and stored them in a safety deposit box, along with irreplaceable family heirlooms from my grandparents. With my immediate security addressed, I reached out to friends who had gradually disappeared from my life during the marriage. Their responses were overwhelming, offering spare rooms, emotional support, and connections to other professionals who could help. Several admitted Jessica had actively discouraged their continued presence in our lives. A manipulation tactic I had completely missed. I found a small apartment near my workplace, signing a 6-month lease and arranging for basic furnishings to be delivered. The space was modest, but represented something priceless: freedom from constant gaslighting and emotional manipulation. My plan was progressing smoothly until an unexpected development. Amanda, Tyler's sister and Jessica's closest confidant, reached out requesting to meet privately. Against my better judgment, I agreed to coffee at a neutral location. Amanda arrived with red-rimmed eyes and a folder of documents. "I need to tell you something," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "I just found out about the affair last week. Jessica told everyone I knew all along, but that was a lie." She pushed the folder toward me. "Tyler has been lying to me too." The documents revealed the depth of Tyler's deception. Bank statements showed he had borrowed substantial sums from Amanda over the past year, ostensibly for a business venture that didn't exist. Text messages between Tyler and Jessica discussed not just their affair but plans for accessing my savings and potentially equity from our home. "They manipulated both of us," Amanda said, tears streaming down her face. "Tyler convinced me you knew about their relationship and had given them your blessing because you couldn't have children. He said you were planning to divorce Jessica anyway." The revelation of this elaborate deception created an unlikely alliance between Amanda and me, both victims of the same betrayal from different angles. As Jessica entered her second trimester, her demands escalated. She expected me to attend doctor appointments, read parenting books, and discuss potential names for a child that represented the collapse of my marriage. Each request was delivered with the same passive-aggressive reminder: "This baby is innocent, Dale. Your issues are with me, not this child." Amanda and I continued sharing information, piecing together a disturbing pattern. Tyler had a history of financial manipulation, beyond the affair having drained resources from previous relationships through elaborate sob stories and false promises. Jessica was not just a victim of his charm, but an active participant in his schemes. The final piece of the puzzle fell into place when Amanda discovered emails between Jessica and Tyler outlining their plan once the baby was born, and they had extracted maximum financial benefit from both me and Amanda. They would move to another state together. The child was both an emotional weapon and a financial strategy. With this evidence in hand, I finalized my exit plan. Jessica had organized a second baby shower, this time with her colleagues from school. While she prepared for the celebration, I retrieved the divorce papers from my attorney's office. As Jessica opened gifts amid a circle of adoring friends, I entered the room and placed the envelope on the coffee table. "These are divorce papers," I announced calmly. "I will not be financially responsible for another man's child or emotionally abused by someone who betrayed every vow we made." Jessica attempted to create a scene, but I continued with newfound confidence. "You said, 'My body, my choice,' when it came to having Tyler's baby. Now I'm saying, 'My wallet, my choice,' when it comes to financing your affair. I choose not to. Her practiced tears and manipulation tactics failed to gain traction, as I maintained my composure. The shower guests, now uncomfortable witnesses to our private drama, began making excuses to leave. Jessica's perfect narrative crumbled around her as I finally took control of my own story. 2 days later, while Jessica attended a prenatal appointment, I moved my essential belongings to my new apartment. I left a detailed inventory of everything I had taken, all legally my property according to my attorney's guidance. When Jessica returned to find me gone, she launched a campaign of desperate phone calls and manipulative messages that I documented but did not engage with. Friends and family members began reaching out, having heard Jessica's version of events. I responded with calm, factual accounts, without emotional embellishment, sharing evidence only when absolutely necessary to correct outright falsehoods. Many were initially skeptical but gradually recognized the truth as Jessica's contradictions multiplied. Through it all, I held firm to my decision, refusing to sacrifice my self-respect for a false peace. For the first time in months, I slept through the night, free from the constant anxiety of living with someone who had weaponized our most intimate dreams against me. The divorce proceedings stretched over 6 grueling months. Jessica fought viciously for assets she had not contributed to, attempting to classify my pre-marriage investments as communal property. Her pregnancy, now visibly advanced, was prominently displayed at every hearing in an obvious play for sympathy from the judge. My meticulously gathered evidence made a significant difference in the negotiations. The documented timeline of the affair, the emptied bank accounts, and the text messages discussing financial exploitation created a compelling case that even Jessica's theatrical performances could not overcome. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, seemed particularly unmoved by Jessica's strategic tears. Jessica's family gradually retreated from their aggressive stance as the evidence of her deception mounted. Her father, who had lectured me about manning up, stopped attending the hearings after the financial manipulation came to light. Her mother continued her support, but with noticeably less conviction, especially after Jessica was caught in several significant lies during testimony. Tyler eventually returned to town when Jessica was 7 months pregnant, but their reunion was not the triumphant event they had planned. When faced with actual responsibility and the collapse of their financial schemes, Tyler began distancing himself. He attended one doctor appointment before declaring he wasn't ready for fatherhood and questioning the certainty of his paternity despite earlier admissions. As Jessica's support system eroded, she found herself increasingly isolated. Former friends aware of how she had treated me declined invitations to her baby shower. Colleagues became less enthusiastic about her pregnancy when rumors of its origins circulated. The narrative she had constructed, casting herself as the victim and me as the villain, collapsed under the weight of reality. Meanwhile, I focused intensely on rebuilding my professional reputation. I worked extra hours, volunteered for challenging projects, and rebuilt relationships with clients I had neglected during the worst of the marital crisis. 6 months after our separation, I received a promotion that came with a significant salary increase, a personal vindication that meant more to me than the financial benefit. The emotional healing took longer than the professional recovery. I began working with a therapist who specialized in betrayal trauma, gradually unpacking the layers of manipulation and gaslighting I had endured. Sessions were often painful, forcing me to confront not just Jessica's betrayal, but also my own blindness to the warning signs. Slowly, I learned to trust my instincts again and recognize unhealthy relationship patterns. Surprisingly, Amanda became an important part of my support network. Our shared experience of betrayal created an unusual bond, and we often met for coffee to process new developments in our parallel journeys toward healing. There was no romantic dimension to our friendship, just the comfort of someone who truly understood the specific pain we had both endured. As the divorce finalized, I rediscovered passions that had fallen by the wayside during my marriage. I joined a local hiking group, resumed playing guitar, and took coding classes in new programming languages. Each activity reconnected me with aspects of myself that had been submerged in the all-consuming effort to please someone who could never be satisfied. About 9 months after our separation, I cautiously began dating again. My first few attempts were awkward, burdened by lingering trust issues and the fear of repeating past mistakes. But with each interaction, I became more comfortable expressing my boundaries and expectations. I was no longer willing to sacrifice my well-being for approval or affection. The sale of our house marked a significant milestone. Watching movers pack up the remnants of our life together brought unexpected relief rather than sadness. My new apartment had become a true home filled with peace and authenticity that our larger, more impressive house had never contained. Through mutual friends, I occasionally heard updates about Jessica. She gave birth to a healthy baby boy, but Tyler provided only minimal financial support and no emotional presence. She struggled as a single mother while maintaining a full-time teaching position. Though I felt sympathy for her situation, I recognized it as the natural consequence of choices she had made with full awareness of potential outcomes. 1 year after our divorce was finalized, Jessica reached out with an unexpected apology. Her message acknowledged the pain she had caused and took responsibility for her actions without qualification or excuse. While the apology came too late to repair what had been broken, it provided a form of closure I hadn't realized I needed. The experience taught me to recognize red flags I had previously ignored. The small lies that escalated into major deceptions. The subtle isolation from supportive friends. The deflection and blame shifting when legitimate concerns were raised. These patterns became clear in retrospect, valuable knowledge for protecting my boundaries in future relationships. Perhaps the most unexpected lesson was discovering my own resilience. The pain that once seemed unbearable had transformed into wisdom. The betrayal that threatened to define me became instead a chapter in a longer, richer story of self-discovery and growth. The perspective gained through distance revealed that Jessica's betrayal, painful as it was, had actually prevented a lifetime of deception. Had we successfully had children together, I might have remained trapped in a fundamentally dishonest relationship, never knowing the freedom of living authentically. In the aftermath of the most painful period of my life, I found a truth that sustained me. Genuine strength comes not from controlling others, but from establishing healthy boundaries that protect your self-respect. Every day we face choices that either honor or compromise our core values. The hardest choices, the ones that require standing alone against pressure and manipulation, are often the very ones that set us free. Now I recognize my worth is not determined by someone else's ability to remain faithful, but by my own commitment to living with integrity, even when that path leads through pain. Life continues to present challenges, but I face them as a stronger, more authentic version of myself, grateful for lessons learned and choices that ultimately led to liberation. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice to protect yourself from toxic people? Share your experience in the comments below and let me know if you made choices similar to mine. If this story resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. I share new stories about life lessons and personal growth every week. Thank you for listening. And remember, sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings.